Well, hello, Cairo. The president tries to write a new chapter in U.S. relations with the Muslim world. We'll push forward what he said and try to find out if it'll get anything done. Centuries of conflict, centuries of mistrust. The chasm between the U.S. and the Muslim world is enormous and filled with landmines. But today, an unprecedented president delivered an unprecedented speech, reaching out to perhaps the most complex and hardest audience to win over. He was applauded, he was lauded, but did President Barack Hussein Obama bridge the gap? In a word, and by his own admission, no. But standing at Egypt's Cairo University today, he attempted to take a step, speaking to not only Muslims around the world, but to America and to all of us.
Since our founding, American Muslims have enriched the United States. They have fought in our wars, they have served in our government, they have stood for civil rights, they have started businesses, they have taught at our universities, they've excelled in our sports arenas, they've won Nobel Prizes, built our tallest building, and lit the Olympic torch.
Well, the torch may be lit, but is the president's speech catching fire throughout the Muslim world? No better people to answer that question than our guest, Zainab Salbi. She's the founder and CEO for Women International. Hussein Rashid is a blogger for religiondispatches.org. And Soumaya Khalifa is the executive director of the Islamic Speakers Bureau here in Atlanta. Thank you all for being with me.
Thank you.
Well, let's go ahead. I mean, you heard what he said there, and the list. I mean, everything from the sports arena to the Nobel Prizes to our tallest building to the Olympic torch. I mean, right out of the box, he talked about how Muslims have impacted all of us here in the U.S. Zainab, good move?
I think he did a great job in his speech. I think he addressed few things. One is the emotional needs for Muslims for acknowledgement of our past histories in terms of the art and the science and contributions to the world in many different ways, but also acknowledgement of the not so good history of what he addressed as the colonialism or injustice or stereotyping of the Muslim world or Muslims in general. I think that acknowledgement will go a long way actually in reaching out to the Muslim population.
And he go ahead.
Go. Well, another thing he did, he reached out to the people directly. The Muslim world is a world where you have a majority of the population, up to 65% of the population under the age of 24. He reached out to the people directly who are mostly unemployed. There's 10% of unemployment in the Muslim world. There's a great anxiety that addresses the economic reality, that addresses the women's issues. They're reaching out to the West. And he addressed the people directly, which is what he is really good at. His community organizer spirit came in that speech, in my belief.
And so did his spirit of becoming or of being a history student. Let's take a listen.
As a student of history, I also know civilization's debt to Islam. It was Islam at places like Uluzara that carried the light of learning through so many centuries, paving the way for Europe's Renaissance and Enlightenment. It was innovation in Muslim communities. It was innovation in Muslim communities that developed the order of algebra, our magnetic compass and tools of navigation, our mastery of pens and printing, our understanding of how disease spreads and how it can be healed. Islamic culture has given us majestic arches and soaring spires, timeless poetry and cherished music, elegant calligraphy, and places of peaceful contemplation. And throughout history, Islam has demonstrated through words and deeds the possibilities of religious tolerance and racial equality.
I love that poetry, but boy, did I struggle with algebra. Hussein, why the history lesson?
You know, I think it's important to realize that what President Obama was doing was not just talking about the history of Muslims in America and the history of Muslims in the world, but the history of Muslims throughout the world. I think you have to see this as part of a larger whole. He's talking about the fact that Venetian architecture in Italy comes from learnings it took from the Eastern world, that you had Arabic learning present in Europe. And at the same time, when you look at President Obama starting his speech talking about Al-Azhar University and Cairo University, he's talking about the borrowings from Europe into the Arab Muslim world. And so I think what he's doing is he's reminding us that we're in a moment of crisis right now, but that this moment can't define our past and our future. We've had long histories of cooperation, of cohabitation, of interaction that we can continue to develop and foster. And that just because we're at a low point right now in religious relationships doesn't mean that we can't build up to something greater again.
Perfect segue. Well, while you mentioned that on Hussein, about religion, let's take a listen.
Much has been made of the fact that an African American with the name Barack Hussein Obama could be elected president. But my personal story is not so unique. The dream of opportunity for all people has not come true for everyone in America, but its promise exists for all who come to our shores. That is why there is a mosque in every state in our union and over 1,200 mosques within our borders. That's why the United States government has gone to court to protect the right of women and girls to wear the hijab and to punish those who would deny it.
Soumaya, very much a religious speech. I mean, he quoted from the Quran, he quoted from the Bible, he quoted from the Talmud.
Yes. I believe President Obama did such a phenomenal job for people who are doing interfaith work, and that's what I'm engaged in. He pulled all three Abrahamic faith traditions. He pulled from references from all three. He also did a great job connecting with Muslims all over the world, the 1.5 billion Muslims around the world, with his own experiences, with his own childhood. He even reached out to them by his whole name, saying his whole name. He did a magnificent job, and I think it's a springboard for all of us American Muslims to engage with other faith communities and engage with our fellow Christians, Jews, Hindus, and Buddhists all over the country. And he also talked about the presence of Muslims and of Islam in America in terms of the number of mosques and the contributions of American Muslims to America itself, and the story that we can tell about the opportunities in our democracy that people took advantage of.
Soumaya and Hussein and Zainab, please stay with me because we're going to talk 3 more times on a number of different issues. Thank you so much. We're going to talk about women's rights in the Muslim world.